Before the city truly stirs, a lone figure begins his day. He's a delivery man, not tall but strong, with kind eyes that see the world a little differently. Dressed in his simple uniform, he meticulously ties his shoelaces and shoulders his bag, heavy with parcels and letters. He's done this for years. It's not an easy job, but he carries himself with a quiet pride. He knows that every single delivery matters to someone. As he steps outside, the cool morning air greets him. He takes a deep breath, ready for another day of navigating the busy streets. The sounds of the city waking up, honking cars, street vendors, friendly greetings are the soundtrack to his life. He knows every corner of his route, every face. He treats everyone with the same respect, always offering a smile or a kind word, no matter how tired he feels. Today, he carefully sorts his parcels, his hands moving with practiced efficiency. The bag is heavy, but his resolve is heavier. He believes his work is important. Each package isn't just a box. It's a piece of someone's hope, a gift, a dream. Among the many stops, there's one large, quiet home on a tree-lined street. It's set back behind tall gates and perfect hedges, looking almost intimidating. But the delivery man doesn't judge by appearances. As he walks up the driveway, he sees a woman in a wheelchair struggling by her front door, trying to reach her mailbox. A silent urge to help pulls at his heart. "Good morning, ma'am," he says, his voice soft and friendly. Oh, she looks up, her eyes showing a mix of gratitude and embarrassment. She seems used to managing on her own, hesitant to ask for help. He doesn't wait. He gently lifts the parcel and places it on her lap. "Here, this is for you," he says with a warm smile. She murmurs a quiet thank you, her eyes lighting up just a little. This small moment was just the beginning. Every day, he started noticing little things, how she struggled to open her door, or the tired look on her face. Without a second thought, he began offering small gestures of help. He'd carry her groceries, help with her letters, or just share a kind word. These moments were brief but deeply meaningful. The woman, though private, started looking forward to his visits. The delivery man never thought about recognition or reward. He didn't know she was wealthy or that their lives were worlds apart. To him, she was simply a person who needed help, and helping was the right thing to do. After each delivery, he'd walk away, his bag a little lighter, but his heart full. He saw a human being struggling, and he responded with care. This daily routine, though exhausting, filled his days with a purpose that money couldn't buy. Even when it rained or the sun was relentless, he never complained. His dedication and respect for people kept him going. Every morning, he woke up knowing someone out there might need him. Every evening, he returned home tired but happy. The city may not notice him, and most people might not remember his face. But for those he helps, his kindness leaves a lasting mark. His routine continues, simple yet meaningful, ordinary yet inspiring. A man moving quietly through the city, delivering packages, carrying burdens, and unknowingly changing lives, one act of kindness at a time. He has no idea that one day, his life and the life of the woman he helps will connect in a way he could never possibly imagine. Every day, he'd return to the quiet house on the tree-lined street. At first, it was just another stop on his route. But over time, his visits became something more. They turned into small moments of connection, little acts of care that no one else seemed to notice. He started to remember the way she preferred her parcels placed on the table, how she sometimes struggled with the buttons on her wheelchair, and the soft tone she used when she wanted to speak, but didn't want to seem demanding. At first, he thought he was just helping out of habit. But soon he realized these small gestures were making a real difference in her day. He'd arrive with a smile, carefully lift the packages, and if the porch was slick with rain, he'd carry them right inside for her. Sometimes he'd bring little extras he thought might help, some fresh fruit, a warm blanket, or even a small bouquet of flowers he'd picked from a nearby garden. She often tried to refuse, insisting she could manage on her own, but he'd always insist politely, reminding her that a little help never hurt anyone. These small actions began to form a bond between them, one built not on words, but on respect, trust, and quiet understanding. As weeks passed, their interactions grew richer. He began to see more than just her physical struggles. He saw the way her eyes would soften when she smiled, how she laughed quietly at his small jokes, and the immense pride she carried despite the challenges she faced every single day. He never asked about her life, her wealth, or her history. To him, those things just didn't matter. What mattered was helping someone in need, and in doing so, he found a sense of purpose he'd never known before. One sunny afternoon, he noticed her struggling to open a heavy box of groceries. Without a second thought, he stepped forward and helped lift it onto the counter. She looked at him with such gratitude, her voice barely a whisper. "Thank you. You were very kind," she said softly. He just smiled back. "It's nothing, ma'am. I'm happy to help." These simple exchanges became the highlight of their routine, filling both their hearts with a quiet warmth. The woman, though incredibly wealthy and used to having everything she needed, found herself admiring the delivery man in a way she never expected. Here was someone who treated her not as a millionaire or as a person to be pitied, but simply as a human being deserving of respect and care. So many people in her life saw her wealth first and her humanity second. But this man noticed the little things, the daily struggles, the effort she made just to live her life. It was so rare, and it touched her deeply. Meanwhile, he remained completely unaware of her fortune, and that was the true beauty of their connection. He never thought about rewards or recognition. He just acted out of kindness. She began to leave him small notes or gestures of appreciation, little things to brighten his day, all while keeping her identity and fortune a secret. She wanted to see the pureness of his character, and it became a quiet game of trust, a silent bond that grew stronger with every visit. This simple routine started to teach profound lessons about life, humility, and empathy. The delivery man began noticing other people around him who might need help: an elderly neighbor, a struggling shopkeeper, a child carrying a heavy school bag. He offered assistance wherever he could. In his own quiet way, he became an everyday hero, finding joy in making someone's day just a little bit easier. From her window, the woman would watch, often moved to tears by his selflessness. She realized that true wealth wasn't about money, but about the kindness you carry in your heart. As days turned into weeks, their unspoken friendship became a story of quiet inspiration. He had no idea he'd entered her life like a guardian angel, and she had no idea that her admiration would one day lead to a life-changing revelation. For now, their connection existed in simple gestures: helping hand, a warm smile, a kind word, and that was enough to make both of their lives richer, deeper, and filled with a sense of purpose that no money could ever buy. The delivery man never imagined his small, daily acts of kindness would become a story worth telling. But even without realizing it, he had already profoundly changed someone's life. And for the woman, each visit was a beautiful reminder that genuine care can come from the most unexpected places. The bond they shared, built so quietly and naturally, was stronger than any wealth or status, proving that the truest connections are found in the simplest acts of human kindness. Over time, the delivery man started noticing small details about the woman's life, things he hadn't seen before. He began to sense there was more to her than met the eye. Her house was always immaculate, with polished floors and elegant furniture. The walls were decorated with beautiful paintings, and the garden outside bloomed with flowers in every color imaginable. Yet she never flaunted anything and never spoke of wealth, so he continued to treat her like anyone else, focusing only on helping her with her daily struggles. On some days, he would see a sleek, expensive car pull up, but he never thought much of it, assuming it belonged to a relative or a visitor. Other times, he noticed the way the mailman or other staff addressed her with deep respect, holding doors open or walking a few steps behind her. He saw her using devices and tools that were far beyond what most people could afford. Yet she never showed off or made him feel small, and that only deepened his admiration for her. He liked her calmness, her quiet strength, and the way she carried herself despite her disability. The woman, meanwhile, watched him with growing fondness. She saw the kindness in every action he took, how he never complained, even when the bag of parcels was heavy. How he remembered her preferences, and how he treated her like a human being, not a millionaire. She often thought to herself, if only he knew who I really was, would he still care the same way? But a part of her wanted to wait and see, wanting to test whether his heart was truly pure. Her secret wealth was a shield, a way to observe the honesty of someone who truly deserved recognition. There were moments that hinted at her extraordinary life, though the delivery man never fully understood them. Once, he noticed a silver key on the table that opened a safe filled with documents and envelopes. Another time, he glimpsed a wall lined with awards and certificates, yet she never drew attention to them. Even the clothes she wore were simple, but the fabrics were clearly expensive, and her shoes were pristine and elegant. These small clues made him curious at times, but he never let it change the way he acted. His focus remained on helping her, never judging, never asking questions, always giving. Some afternoons, while delivering groceries or helping her arrange packages, he would overhear conversations she had on the phone. She spoke with people who addressed her with deference, sometimes about business matters or charity work. Yet she was careful never to mention these details to him, allowing him to see only the life that mattered, the real human struggles and needs. It fascinated him how someone could live in such comfort and yet remain so humble and kind, not letting wealth define her. He had no idea that the woman he helped daily was not just a wealthy individual, but someone whose life touched the lives of many behind closed doors. The growing bond between them was no longer just about assistance. It became a silent friendship, built on trust and shared moments. He would ask about her day, she would reply with small smiles, and sometimes they would share laughter over trivial stories. For him, this was enough. For her, these moments became treasures, moments where she could forget about status and money and simply connect with someone who cared purely for her as a person, not for what she had. Every act of kindness from him, no matter how small, seemed amplified because of his humility. He held doors, lifted parcels, offered encouragement, and never expected a word of thanks. Though she always thanked him politely, she secretly dreamed of a day when she could give back in a meaningful way. Perhaps he had never helped anyone else in his life so selflessly. And perhaps she had never met someone who embodied goodness in such a natural way. In this part of their story, the mystery of her wealth grew like a quiet shadow, present but unseen. It added layers of tension and anticipation, not for the delivery man, but for us, the audience, who can sense that something extraordinary is hidden just beneath the surface. While he continued his daily routine, she continued her silent observations, and their connection deepened. A story of kindness and humanity was quietly unfolding, waiting for the day when their lives would intersect in a moment that would change everything. Even as the delivery man went on with his deliveries, unaware of the life-altering secret each package carried, each smile he gave, and each hand he lent was preparing the way for a revelation that would inspire and transform them both. One afternoon, the delivery man arrived at the familiar driveway, just like any other day. He carried his bag of parcels and a gentle smile, a part of his daily routine. But today felt different. There was a quiet energy in the air, a feeling that something important was about to happen. The woman greeted him from her wheelchair, her eyes shining brighter than usual. For the first time, he saw a hint of real anticipation in her smile. He didn't notice anything unusual at first, but he sensed a warmth and sincerity that made his heart beat a little faster. "Good afternoon, ma'am," he said politely, setting the parcels on the table. She nodded, her hands trembling slightly. She asked him to sit for a moment. He hesitated, knowing he had more deliveries to make, but he obeyed, sensing that this was not like any other day. She looked at him quietly for a few moments, as if gathering her thoughts. Then she spoke, her voice calm but filled with emotion. "There is something I want to show you, something I've never shared with anyone before." He looked at her, puzzled, wondering what she could possibly mean. She wheeled closer to him, opening a drawer he had never noticed before. From it, she pulled out a thick, heavy envelope with his name written on it. As he reached out to take it, she stopped him gently. "Please, just listen first," she said softly. Her hands were steady now, but her eyes showed a mix of nervousness and hope. "I want you to know the truth," she began. "I am not just someone who lives quietly in this house. I am a millionaire. I have wealth beyond what you can imagine, but I have always wanted to see if someone could care for me, not for what I have, but for who I am. And in you, I have found that person. You have helped me every day without knowing anything about my life. You have been kind, generous, and selfless. And I cannot ignore it anymore." The delivery man's eyes widened in disbelief, his mind struggling to comprehend her words. He shook his head slightly, as if to make sure he had heard correctly. I don't understand," he stammered, surprised and a little embarrassed. He had never imagined that the woman he helped daily, whom he thought of simply as someone in need, was wealthy beyond measure. But he realized that nothing about his feelings had changed. He had never helped her for money, and now, knowing the truth, his respect for her only grew. The woman smiled softly, seeing the honest reaction on his face. "I wanted to wait until I could give back in a meaningful way," she continued. "Until I could show you that your kindness has not gone unnoticed, that it has touched my heart in ways I cannot describe. So today, I want to give you a reward, not as a payment, but as a recognition of your goodness." She handed him the envelope. With trembling hands, he opened it. Inside, he found not just money, but letters and documents expressing her deep gratitude and admiration. Tears welled up in his eyes, not because of the wealth, but because he realized his simple acts of kindness had made a profound difference in someone's life. He felt honored, humbled, and deeply emotional. For years, he had helped without expecting anything in return, and now felt like the universe was recognizing his goodness. The woman, seeing his reaction, laughed softly, a sound full of relief and happiness. "You are the kindest person I have ever met," she said, "and I am grateful for you every single day." In that moment, the delivery man understood something far greater than money. He realized that true value lies in the heart, in acts of compassion, in helping someone without expecting anything back. And though his life might change after this, he promised himself that he would never let it change who he was. His kindness and humility would remain the same, because that was who he truly was. This moment was emotional, beautiful, and unforgettable. A connection built slowly over months of small acts of care had finally revealed its true depth. The woman's wealth had never mattered, and it didn't matter now. What mattered was the bond they had formed, the trust they had built, and the selfless care that had brought them together. It was a story of humanity, of compassion, and of how one person's goodness can change another's life forever. And as they sat together that afternoon, sharing smiles and heartfelt words, the delivery man realized that his life, which had always seemed ordinary, had now become extraordinary in ways he could never have imagined.